Welcome back. The publicity surrounding the Terri Schiavo case has caused many Americans to consider creating a living will. I discussed the preparation of living wills with attorney Neil Garfinkel of the firm Abrams and Garfinkel.
A living will is someone's determination on what they'd like to happen to them in the event that they can't make that decision with respect to medical decisions on their own. So they put in writing what they want to happen vis-a-vis if they can't make those decisions.
Now, when we talk about a living will, certainly the Schiavo case has brought this to the forefront, and in some cases the forms seem very simplistic. Can they be too simplistic? Should you take the time to put more effort into it?
Sure. I think that you probably should take a fair amount of time to consider in very specific instances what you want to happen. So, for example, do you want hydration and nutrition through a feeding tube, for example? In New York State, you have to make it clear that you do want those things. So I think you should take the time. It's obviously very important decisions, but I don't think it has to be overly complicated. The key is to express what you want to happen, again, in the event that you can't make those decisions for yourself.
Now, on a state-by-state basis, do things change here with living wills specifically?
They do. There are different, each state has its own laws with respect to that. It could be statutory or it could be common law, where a court makes the decision as to whether it's valid and so on. So, for example, in New York, for example, it's a common law state, but it's clear that a living will is a valid way of someone who expressing.
And just like a will for your earthly possessions, you should, look into this with somebody that can help you, a lawyer that can put you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
A healthcare proxy is another thing that people have been talking about related to this, and I've heard some suggest that it might be better for certain people than a living will. What's the difference?
Sure. A healthcare proxy is where someone gives someone the power to make that decision for them. So, for example, if I gave you my healthcare proxy and I wasn't able to make decisions because, for example, I was in a coma, then you could make those decisions for me. As opposed to a living will, which is just my statements in writing, a healthcare proxy, you would understand, Lane, hopefully after we discussed what my intentions were, sure, you'd be able to make those decisions for me.
Now, in the case of the late Ms. Schiavo, she did not have these things.
Correct.
But the law supported the husband's right to make the decisions.
Correct.
So if you're in that situation, you should understand your state law, whatever
Absolutely.
It may be, in order to make a decision about what you truly want and
Sure.
making sure your needs and wants are met.
Absolutely. I mean, they do make the forms fairly simplistic so that they're accessible, so that people can use them, and I think that's important. But some care has to go into it. I would recommend, if you certainly should let the person know that you're giving the healthcare proxy, what your intentions are.
Exactly. What do you have to do with it once you figure out you want to put it together? Does it have to be notarized? Do you need witnesses? Does it have to be filed with the state or maybe even your medical insurance? What do you do with it?
It's an excellent question. It varies from state to state. Some states require a notary. Other states just allow 2 witnesses. Some states will not allow your doctor to be the witness. So it varies from
Especially
state to
if
state.
you're under care already, right?
Correct. And for example, and a doctor cannot have a healthcare proxy in certain states. They can't be the doctor then. They could be the healthcare proxy, but they can't be the doctor. What you should do with it, don't put it in a safe deposit box. It should be readily accessible. A copy should be readily accessible to the agent, the person who is going to be acting in your stead. It should be with your doctor. It should be with your lawyer. You can have copies, and they will be valid. Again, each state is a little
without
different.
actually filing it with anybody.
That's correct.
Yeah. And should you also discuss this with your family so they understand your intentions? I mean, it's kind of a morbid thing. People don't like to talk about death. They don't like to talk about their final wishes, let alone wishes that they never might have expected to be facing in their 20s or 30s.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. And again, unfortunately, the planning that goes into it is well worth down the road. If something should happen to you, then it's worth planning now to do that.
And also, it's an important thing to point out if it is somebody that's close to you. And when we think about traveling with our loved ones, if God forbid the person is in the same position that you're in that situation, then what do you do? What if the person who's given the decision making
Sure.
is in the same situation you are?
That's where a living will is helpful, because it expresses your intentions. So the document expresses your intentions as opposed to the healthcare proxy, the agent acting for you. we do something called documents and decisions programs. What we do is in addition to doing these forms, we also ask the client to write down where their documents are.
When it comes to power of attorney, how does that differ?
Sure. The power of attorney, depending on if it's limited or not, can give anyone, your agent, the right to act in your stead, and so that can be very broad.
Over and above a healthcare power of attorney, over and above a proxy?
I think it's worth having a power of attorney to someone that you trust, so that they can make decisions above and beyond the health-related decisions. So financial decisions and so on. Should you be incapacitated, I think it's a good thing to have as well. Yes.
Attorney Neil Garfinkel of the firm Abrams & Garfinkel. Coming up next on Bloomberg Personal Finance, April 15th is fast approaching. We'll have important advice for anyone filing a joint tax return.